All right, we are live. It's Georgia Auburn week. It's Deep South's oldest rivalry. Stay tuned. Let's get it. All right, good evening. Happy Thursday evening. Welcome into the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. I'm Corey Burton. Thanks for joining me. If you're wondering where Israel is, he is still they're still kind of rebuilding from the hurricane. So he doesn't have internet. Valdosta is in a bit of disarray still. So he's at least one more week away from being able to join us officially. So they're getting there, but it's great to be with you. And this is this is wonderful. So welcome in Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. We're presented by betonline.ag. Your number one source for all your sports wagering needs. It is the number one world's most trusted betting platform, and of course, your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Do you think you know your stuff? Well, you can get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. So head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. So, like I said, it's just me tonight, and we'll do a quick show and get you in and out and ready to enjoy a really good weekend of college football. I'll give you a few picks to take on the road with you, and then of course, we'll talk. I'm going to react to the Georgia-Alabama game. I know that would seem like a long time ago, but I'm going to react to it because I think it does have some credence over the way the rest of the season is going to roll based on how that game played out. Then, of course, I'm going to preview Auburn and get you ready for that game and see just how the Dawgs stack up against Auburn. So, starting chronologically, man, watching that Alabama-Georgia game was a roller coaster. Let me put it to you that way. It was the worst game ever, and then it became the best game ever. And then for the next 2 minutes, it jumped back and forth between those two things pretty rapidly until the end of the game. And then, of course, the game ended with some disappointment where Carson Beck throws a game-sealing interception with it being, I think, second and goal with still plenty of clock left. And there's some controversy on the play call there. But starting with the first half, probably one of the most abysmal halves of football I've ever seen a Kirby Smart coach team, or actually a Mark Richt and Kirby Smart coach team played. That half, I don't think anything went right. Carson Beck was awful. The receivers couldn't get separation. The running backs couldn't find running room. The offensive line couldn't block. The DBs couldn't cover. There was guys running wide open. The linebackers were lost. The defensive line was getting destroyed. The people on the sidelines were checked out. I just don't think I don't know if anything was being said over the headsets, or I think everybody was just in total shock. Alabama comes out firing on all cylinders. Jalen Milroe is absolutely outstanding in the first half. Brian Williams, of course, can't be stopped. Alabama's receivers, I don't think anybody covered them. I think they were running routes on air. That's what it seemed like. They could do no wrong. Defensively, they were in Carson Beck's face. Not that it mattered because Carson Beck was rattled from the first snap, and it was brutal. He threw 2 interceptions and many turnover worthy balls in the first half. I mean, it was the most abysmal thing I've ever seen. We came out shook. Didn't look like we had much of a plan. didn't know what we were trying to do. I still don't think the offense quite has an identity yet, which is troublesome, given the giving the rankings that we have and the expectations that are there. So going into halftime, I'm about ready to turn the game off. Okay. There's not much to break down from the first half. It all went wrong. It was all crap. It was all garbage. If we were doing a good, bad, and ugly segment, that entire first half, I could spend 30 seconds on the ugly segment, and that I would just say the entire first half. It was all ugly. It was all ugly. I can't explain it. So the second half rolls around, and Bama jumps out a little bit, but Georgia is now finding some answers on defense. They're starting to kind of get a little stingier. They're starting to make some stops. They get an interception there right before halftime that actually led to a safety later on, because Carson Beck was just completely rattled and in outer space somewhere. I'm not real sure where he was, but Dan Jackson gets an interception. That gives the defense some life. Okay, that was the play that kind of turned it around and said, and just let the defense know, hey, you can actually stop these guys. It's okay. They're not great. They're not this unbeatable team. You can do this, right? That was the play that kind of, I think, ignited that. Now you get in the second half, and now all of a sudden we start pushing the ball down the field vertically, mostly out of necessity. But I think it was good that we did that. I think it was good that Carson Beck was able to get the ball down the field. I think it built his confidence. I think it opened up things in the run game. And I think we might have actually stumbled upon something, right? And I'm not sure if we know that that's our identity or not. I'm not sure that we understand that if that's our identity or not. But I think we are a vertical team with the weapons that we have, and then of course the running backs that we have, it opens things up for them, and then running well opens up things down the field vertically as well. So I think we're kind of built that way. And then of course the tight ends can catch some things short to intermediate and just kind of keep things honest up tight. But for the most part, when we start pushing the ball down the field vertically, when we start playing with tempo, then you've got something here. Like, you've got a team that has a little bit of confidence that can push the ball down the field. I think it's when we try to slow things down, we try to kind of get these big, long developing plays. I think, we I don't know that our receivers are good enough to kind of run around like that. There's a lot of things involved with this offense that we're not in breaking route guys. We're not cross the field mesh team. We're not these like short to intermediate concepts. We're a vertical team. And we got to play to that, and then everything's got to build around that, I think. And so I'm curious to see kind of what against Auburn they can bring out. But if Carson Beck is going to be a vertical team, he's got to stop underthrowing the ball. I mean, every deep pass was somebody had to come back for it, wait on it. The interception at the end was a ball that was short. If he puts it on the back pylon, Georgia wins this game instead of losing. And we're talking about, how we almost lost to Alabama and made it interesting. But this is, or we completed the greatest comeback of all time, which we did for a brief minute, 15 seconds to be exact. But this is something that I think you kind of have to look at offensively, saying, hey, we got this identity, we got some things going on. But, coming out of that game, I actually weirdly feel encouraged. If you had asked me that at halftime, I'm saying we're going 8-4 and we're headed to the Music City Bowl. But after the game, I'm sitting there going, that was weird. I felt really bad about this team. I felt really down about this team. And now I feel really oddly confident that this team has kind of woken up a little bit. So it's just one of those things where maybe you need to get your butt kicked and get your ass handed to you to figure out what you need. So how does that affect this week? Well, this week we welcome Auburn. Okay, and we'll put this game to bed now. Finally, this week we welcome Auburn, and they're a team that's desperate for a win. Okay, they haven't got much going. This is a really disappointing start for them. They're 0-2 in conference play. They've committed a bunch of turnovers. I think every quarterback on that roster has gotten thrown under the bus by Hugh Freeze. I think it's just they're limited in a lot of spots, and they're really off to a disappointing start. They lost to Oklahoma in what was a weird game where they dominated for a long time, and then they just let it slip away there at the end, not taking care of the football. And then, I think some things are not optimal over there in Auburn. They come to Sanford and likely starting Peyton Thorne against them again this year. Peyton Thorne is a really good running threat. He proved that last year on the Plains. He broke a 65-yarder, I think, in the first series against Georgia to score a touchdown. And he was a thorn in our side all game long. Well, I think this year we've learned a little bit. They're taking care of the ball a little bit worse this season. And this is going to be a game where I think if Georgia can just play within itself, not get too high, not get too low, just kind of go out there and handle their business, I think this will be a game that they should win pretty comfortably. I mean, the spread is 23.5 now. They should win pretty comfortably, and they should cover that spread if they play like they're capable of playing. If they come out with a game plan and understand what their identity is and play to that, I think they can win this game comfortably. And so offensively, it means, get ETN, Roger Robinson, and Zach Frazier, get them the ball, get them carries, get them plenty of carries, get Colby Young the ball, Dominic Lovett the ball, get Dylan Bell the football, be able to connect with Arian Smith down the field. I about called him Arian Foster. Be able to connect with Arian Smith down the field, because I think on the first series, if Carson Beck hits that pass, we might be talking about a different ball game. But just being able to connect on those is going to be vital. And this team is a team that is they were low in confidence. Now they're back up a little bit in confidence, and defensively just be able to get the ball out, create some turnovers, create some havoc again. I mean, I just don't think that Georgia was able to do that. They were playing like they were scared of Jalen Milroe, and they weren't playing very aggressively at times. And then they finally decided, hey, we're down 28 points. We should probably start playing aggressively now. And guess what? It worked, right? Georgia, I think, is a team that was scared of itself. I think that Georgia team that played in Tuscaloosa was a little bit scared of itself. Didn't seem like they were playing with any confidence. They were playing too conservatively. And I think they've just got to say, who cares? We're going to throw it to the wind now. We're just going to go out and play. And we're going to play like we're capable of playing, and we're going to fly around, and we're going to hit. We're going to do some things, right? They've got to be able to play in that regard. They've got to be able to do those type of things, and they've got to be able to play within that identity defensively, or they're going to be stuck right back where they were in Tuscaloosa, where, hey, we're trying to find some answers, and they can't. And they were in this defense was in a similar situation in Kentucky too. Like, Kentucky was chewing up yards. They just couldn't finish drives. And it was a little concerning there too, because, you're sitting there trying to go, okay, well, they're not communicating well. It doesn't look like they're tackling all that well. It doesn't look like, the energy is quite there, or the focus is quite there. And it showed. I mean, of course, playing on the road in the SEC is tough. And thankfully they're not playing on the road this week. They're at home against Auburn, but playing on the road's tough. That can take its toll as well. But, when when things aren't going well, it tends to snowball. You lose confidence, and now you just can't seem to get out of your own head. You got to protect against that, and you've got to just be able to decide, hey, we're going to be pretty good here, and we're going to do our thing, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And these guys have just got to cut loose and go, and they've got to cut loose and say, I'm going to make the plays. You're not. Peyton Thorne, you're going to give us the football about 4 times, and we're going to win this thing 48-7. Okay, that's the mentality they've got to have. The mentality of everybody's out to get us. We are not scared of you. And, if you go out and play games like that and you end up losing, it's because teams beat you, not because you lose. We lost that Alabama game, I think, because we're a better team than what showed out there, right? I don't know if we're neck and neck with Alabama as far as talent goes, as far as ability goes. That showed. But what also showed is that when we don't play to our capability, when we don't play with the right mindset, it can get really, really bad, especially on the road with a team that's that talented. So, hats off to Georgia for fighting back. But, this is a game they gotta go out. They gotta cover the spread. If anybody's going to feel good about Georgia being a playoff team and being a team in the playoff that makes a run, this is the game that they have to go out and they have to cover the spread. And maybe then some, right? They have to do some things to be able to they've got to be able to do things that voters can be like, oh, okay, well, this Georgia team, we've got to give them a 10 seed. We've got to, they're going to make a run. Like that, if they want to be a dangerous team, if they want to have a chance at getting 3 in the last 4, this has got to be the type of game that they destroy and roll and like double the spread almost. And this is something that they got to. Man, they just got to latch into, and so it's a mindset. It really is. It's a mindset. It's a mindset they had against Ole Miss last year. It's a mindset that they've had in several games last year. The Florida State game, to be exact. Like there's several games where they're just like, yeah, you're not better than us. We're going to go out and prove that, and that mindset hasn't been there in the last 2 weeks, and I think it's got to make a return. So when you look at that's what it is. Offensively, I think the keys, the goal is to play within yourself, play within your identity. The goal is to be able to run the football a little bit. The goal is to be able to push the ball vertically down the field. I think with tempo, you got to be able to control the tempo. You don't have to go blitzkrieg fast every single time, but you've got to be able to control the tempo and not let the defense dictate kind of what you need to do, because they can get you into that. Like Alabama got us back on our heels a little bit, and we couldn't really do much. And it just didn't seem like we could get our bearings until the second half when it was almost too late. But this is a game that, again, against Auburn, especially with the game last year, and especially the history between Hugh Freeze and Kirby Smart, this is a game that you have to go out and just say, okay, we're going to punch you in the mouth. There's not a dang thing you can do about that. And defensively, especially, you've got to assert your dominance here. You've got up front on the defensive line with the linebackers, you've got to say, all right, we know you can run. Jarquez Hunter's a good runner. Peyton Thorne's a good runner. But you've got to force those guys to do what they're not comfortable with. You've got to force them to get tough yards and earn those yards. They can't get big chunk plays. They have to earn it, because Peyton Thorne will not. He will give the ball to you the more he has to do, the more he has to think, the more he has to whatever, because he's not a quick decision maker. There's a lot of times, especially when he turns the ball over, he gets real confused when he drops back. He doesn't know exactly what's going on coverage-wise. So, that's something you have to contend with there. But let's get into some picks, shall we? I think there's some really interesting games. Georgia, I think, is going to cover this spread. It's a revenge game in a sense, and it's a get back in the saddle type game in a sense because of what happened with Alabama. So but there's a lot of fun games this weekend. So I think Georgia's going to cover. I would take Georgia minus 23.5 in this one. Not because of the name of the show, but also because I just think they're gonna win it. And I think they're gonna win it big, because that's how they do after a disappointing loss. But an interesting game that I like: Syracuse plus 6.5 over against UNLV. UNLV 6.5 point favorites against a ACC team. That's pretty wild. Barry Odom's got it going on, but the starting quarterback and the starting running back is not there. That's got to catch up with them at some time. I mean, it just does. And I think it's going to catch up with them this week. And I like Syracuse in this one. That's going to be a fun game. That is actually, I don't know if that's happening now or not. It says it's playing right. No, I think it's playing now. I don't know. But that was a game that stood out to me. That was an interesting game there. But some games happening not tonight. You have Missouri, Texas A&M. Actually, that game's tomorrow night, the 4th. Missouri, Texas A&M. That's an interesting one. Missouri road underdogs. being the higher ranked team. But I like Missouri in this one. I think Texas A&M is still trying to figure some things out. I still think they're not quite there yet, and that's okay. They've got a new coach, new staff, possibly a new quarterback, so they're just trying to get their bearings and figure things out. I'm not sure that they're ready to be a favorite against a team like Missouri, but also Missouri's trying to figure some things out too. So, like, what gives? And Missouri's kicking situation is not great, but I still like him because Luther Burden can make a difference there. Penn State, UCLA. I think Big Ten clash there. That's a fun one. It's 27.5 points. I'm not really going to pick that, but I just still think it's funny that UCLA Penn State is a conference game. Just letting that sink in. Auburn, Georgia, of course. That spread has gotten down to 21.5 now. I still take Georgia there at 21.5. Ole Miss, South Carolina. That line is all the way down to 7.5 now. If you took it at minus 10.5, then you're that's still a good pick. But now you get lucky and get it in on 7.5. I think this is another revenge game, kind of like Georgia, where they were upset, disappointed, things like that, and now they're going to come in and take it out on South Carolina. But there's going to be plenty of juice in that game, so this game can get real interesting real fast. But it wouldn't surprise me if Ole Miss blew them out too. Another interesting is Nebraska-Rutgers. Rutgers is playing some really good football right now. They're 7-point underdogs. Might be inclined to take a chance on that spread. Bama-Vandy. Bama is up. They're 23-point favorites on the road at Vandy. That's an interesting one. Vandy's playing some great football there. Clemson, Florida State. That game was like ACC game of the century for a while, and now it's not. But still, Clemson is 14.5-point favorites, which is weird to see. But and then you got let's see, any other interesting games? Tennessee, Arkansas. Tennessee 13.5-point favorites. I feel like that's a big spread for this, but think they can handle it. They are they're a team that can overwhelm you there. Florida, UCF. UCF is actually favored on the road at the Swamp, which is really odd, but that's kind of where Florida is as a program. And then the Nerds, Georgia Tech, hosting Duke. That's an interesting one. Their spread's not listed, but I think at one point it was 6.5 favored in Tech's direction. And then Miami, Cal. Miami's 10.5-point favorites on the West Coast, so that'll be a fun kickoff as well. So lots of interesting games there this weekend. But I'm gonna let you go a few minutes early here. I think you've kind of heard enough of my analysis. This show usually works better when Coach Troop is alongside me. But take this information, do what you will. Make sure you like and follow us, and make sure you give Israel some love at TroopStar28. Make sure you give him some love. Him and that whole South Georgia corridor, they're going to need it. They need it after Hurricane Helene. So make sure you send some love and well wishes their way. But until next time, we'll see you back here on the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. See ya. Peace. Go Dogs.